All right, welcome back to the Atlanta Child Murders Revisited. It is for November. This is ATKID video number 14. We're going to finish up on the geography here and kind of tie up some loose ends, and we'll go on from there. All right, so I had left off. We were in Buckhead, and I was showing you the power places that are connected to the Atlanta child murders, Wayne Williams, Michael Thieves, and everything else like that. And so we're at Tower Place here. Now I covered um, the Limelight and how that's connected to the Gatons and how the Gatons are connected to the mafia and use these clubs for selling drugs. If I can get this to come up here, this is Tower Place. I don't know why my internet's so damn slow. Let's see, what can I see from here while I'm waiting? So yeah, I worked here in Tower Place at USF&G most of '85. Like I said, most of the guys that well in the mailroom and some other friends of theirs were all gay guys. And let's see, trying to think what else here. Oh, but the place was really small. We had really outgrown the office, and so the end of '85 they got a new office up in Dunwoody, up just north of Perimeter Mall, and I worked up there about 2 months, and then I decided I wanted to go. I'd gotten an opportunity to go to college, so I went to college for in '86. But one thing I'm going to come back to the Tower Place in just a second. But one thing I wanted to say here that this where this Trader Joe's is now, I made the mistake. I was calling it the Cheetah 3 Strip Club. It wasn't the Cheetah 3. It was called the Gold Club. It was ran by a guy named Coppola. And you'll see Coppola getting all kinds of trouble later on. But that right there, it's the Trader Joe's now. That was the Gold Club. It was a notorious strip club ran by the Gambinos. Again, what the Gambinos will do is they'll either send down some guys or they'll hire some guys um, with criminal records and stuff like that, and they'll be fronts. They'll run their businesses for them. Okay, but they know they've got to perform. They got to pay a certain percentage of the profits to send back as protection tax to the Gambinos. And I don't know how much that is. I've been looking and looking and looking. I guess it depends on the business. It's like 5 to 10%. Okay, and a lot of times what they'll do is they'll pad um, the food and beverage. Okay, so if you're buying food and beverage for the club, in the invoices, the prices will be 25% more than what it normally would be, and they'll have another company, another food and beverage company that services all of their businesses, and then they're just using that as a way to launder their their money. Okay, so they'll invoice you out, and then they'll say they charge you a certain amount, but the invoice when you do your taxes will say, for like a bunch of colas, they charged you $50, um, but when they report it, they charged you $40, and then that difference there, they'll give that over to the Gambinos. That's how it works. Is they'll pad whatever products they have, usually in services, janitorial services, or notorious. I mean, janitorial service, you can just make whatever the fuck you want, the price. So it may cost, after they get all the guys and the crew and do the cleaning and and the chemicals and the product and stuff like that, it may cost them $100 an hour, but they're going to charge you $150 an hour. And then that is the padding right there. So that's how they legally get away with it. That's how they get their money. No questions asked. So what you'll find is in the service industry, that's where the crime families they flourish. The cleaning services, they also use the cleaning services as kind of an intelligence service. You know, that go through files at night, break into safes, stuff like that. Um, the food and beverage service, things like that. That's how they get a lot of their money, and then real estate also. But you know, a lot of their bread and butter is through settling narcotics and prostitution through some of these clubs here. All right, so now we'll go back. All right, so I'm just going to finish up here if I can get this to come up. So I'm throwing in a lot of stuff at different levels. On a personal level, my experience um, in regards to the Atlanta child murders, and also in regards to organized crime. Wow, they've kind of moved this around, haven't they? Yeah, they really renovated this quite a bit. So, um, wait, is that Tower Place? Yeah. So that's Tower Place right there. Also, during the summer of 1985, they had this radio station in this Tower Place. I don't remember the name. It was like 93 Q93 or Z93 or something like that. And we would listen to it. You know, we had it running in the back mail room while we're cutting envelopes and opening mail, and so that's sort of what I would do. So the mail would be in these bags downstairs in the morning. I would come down, get the bags because there's like a little mini post office there. The guy would hand us the bags. I'd cart them back up to our floor, and then bring them in. We'd dump them on the counter, the floor, whatever. And then we had like a little machine, and we would tap the mail down on the bottom and then open it from the top. Um, I would usually go through and open it all first, and then we would go through the mail and then look who it's to. Okay, and then we had a cart that had all the agents. There were different people that handled different things, adjusters and agents and vice president and stuff like that. And we had a little cart that had their name on it. Now nowadays they would do all this with electronic email, but back then it was all physical mail. And so we put that whatever the letter was and the attachments into that person's slot. Okay, and then usually twice a day. So as soon as I finished that, I would go around and drop off the mail. You know, each desk they had like a little inbox and an outbox, and sometimes they were the same. So I would pick up whatever they wanted to go out, okay, and then I would drop off whatever we had coming in, okay, and then I'd make my rounds and do all that for everybody, and then I would come back, and then whatever I'd gotten from the agents to send out, then they usually had the envelopes already typed up, you know, that way there wouldn't be any problem with the handwriting. So they had an attached envelope and the letter, and then we would just take the letter and fold it up, and if it needed some kind of application or form or something, they would have a note for a little sticky note for that, and then we would attach that, put it in the envelope or put it in the folder, and then seal it up, and then we would do all that and throw it over like in a little pile. Okay. Um, and then I would go around and I'd have, then there'd be lunch. I'd have to clean the break room. I'd have to go in about once a week and like on Wednesdays and Fridays and throw away all the stuff that was rotten or something like that. And then I would go around and pick up all the ashtrays. I'd take a little trash can on a little cart, pick up all the ashtrays. Now, this is when you could still smoke in the office, believe it or not. And I'd do that. And then I'd come back go back downstairs after lunch and get the afternoon mail. And usually it's a little less, and then we would go through the whole routine again. Because what was happening is the postal man downstairs, he just handled the mail just in that building. He wasn't like an open post office. And then so the mail truck would come, drop off all the mail for that building. He would sort through it and divide it up depending on what suite, what floor, and what suite you're on. And then you would come down and pick up your own mail. He wouldn't deliver it to you. Um, and so I go down, we'd pick up some more bags, and I also would drop off whatever we had ready. And then, you know, we'd do that, bring it back up. Oh, we had a meter machine upstairs also, so we would weigh it, we'd seal it, weigh it, and write on there a little bit how much it was, and then I'd take it over. We put in another stack, and then I'd take that stack over, and we had a little meter machine, and I would set the meter machine and hit that. And then about once a month, I'd have to take the meter machine to the post office at Lenox, and then I don't know if they gave me a check, a blank check or what. I don't know what they would have done. Cashier's check. I don't know. I forgot exactly how that worked. Maybe they billed us. I'm not exactly sure. But I'd go over there and I'd redo I'd reset or add credit to the Pitney Bowes stamp machine. And you've seen those little printed out stamps and stuff like that, and they have the date and then how much the postage is for. And that was kind of my day every day. And it just got more and more and more mail. We were getting stacks. Some days we couldn't even finish all the mail. It was just ridiculous. And then if we had any requests for like insurance forms, we would put those over to the side and do those last. And eventually, when we moved to the new office, they had to hire another guy because we were just so damn busy. I would have stayed with that, but um, I just got tired of the gay guys. I'm sorry. It's just every day. No, all the other people that were there was nobody else my age except for the gay guys. Okay, and all the older people were, professionals and agents, and they didn't want to go to lunch with some 19-year-old kid. So I ended up going. And I had a station wagon, so they would say, "Hey, we'll give you some money if you want to take us to Lenox or take us to Perimeter Mall," and I'd be like, "Okay." And so I had to sit around, eating my lunch, listening to these gay guys, talking all the time about what they did at the club and how they met some guy, and it just got ridiculous. I was just, I'm a straight arrow, and I got nothing against people doing their thing. I just don't want to hear about it all the time. I mean, nobody wants to hear about other people's shit all the time. Um, it reminds me of when I was in Israel a couple of years ago. I was working for a moving company, and I was really good at it. And there was this other guy; he was really good at it too. Okay, um, so we usually work like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Okay, because nobody wanted to work that because that was Shabbat. Okay, but we knew that no one else was working those hours, so we would get people would pick up the phone more because there were less because most of the moving company agents are calling from Israel. Okay, so he wasn't Jewish; he was American. I don't know how he ended up being able to work in Israel because he didn't make Aliyah. So I don't know what the hell was going on with that. But and then the woman who worked, she wasn't religious either. She was like a lesbian. Okay, and so I loved doing the job. I just didn't like having to listen to those two. And so they would get into it about discussions about being gay, how great it was, and how great it was being a lesbian, and you know, and it was basically penises and vaginas. That's all they talked about for 8 hours a day, and how well, you don't know what's down there with the vagina, that's scary, and then she'd say, well, putting that penis in somebody else's rear end. It's like I was like, God damn. And I talked to my boss. I said, we can get them to stop talking about that shit and just stick to business. I'm on phone calls with people and they're hearing penises and vaginas being talked about. It was a small office, okay? So I just got tired of that shit. And so I found another moving company and I went and worked with them. It was just pissing me off. Like nothing against those people, but look, I got nothing against whatever you want to do. That's your fucking business. But when you're at work, stick to work. Don't be talking about who you've been banging, and don't be talking about, you know, all this other bullshit. You know, it's just very unprofessional, I think. But anyway, so the same here. I got tired of them listening to them talking about, how many guys they went home and slept with last weekend and all kinds of bullshit. And, you know, I'd realized I just wasn't getting away from it. I wasn't going to be moving up in the company unless I got a college degree for an insurance. Because there was like the college degree insurance people, and then there was the, the workers. Okay. So I quit and I went off to college. But, so anyway, talking about this radio station. They had this radio station, Z93 or whatever it was, and they had this really asshole of a DJ in the morning. But he did this thing where he would ask a question, and if you were like the 93rd caller, okay, or whatever it was, the 10th caller with the right answer, you would get an opportunity to. And every week they would do this at a certain time, okay, and they were going to give away like 4 or 5 keys to this Porsche 944 red one. And the last week or two, they had the Porsche 944 inside the lobby here. Okay. And every day I'd come down and I'd look at that, and God, I love that Porsche 944. Holy crap. It was awesome. But anyway, so one day I went in and I was listening and I said, oh, wow. Oh, they're calling for it now. Okay. And so I just dialed the number like 2 or 3 times. I got through. I was the 93rd caller or whatever it was. And I had the right answer. And I was like, holy shit, I won. I didn't win the Porsche. I won a key, like 1 out of 4 or 5 keys. And so on a hot end of July, 1985, I show up here. Okay. And it was like in the middle of the week. It wasn't like on the weekend. I couldn't take my girlfriend. And they had like a fishbowl, and they must have had 20 fucking keys in there. Okay. And so there were only 4 or 5 of us. And so we all pulled a key. And so I don't know how they determined. I guess there was a number on the key that you determine which one went first, second, third, and all that kind of shit. And so the first guy went, couldn't open the door. Second guy went, boom, opened the door. I'm like, oh shit. He gets in, click, 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 didn't start the car. So now I'm in the car. Now all I got to do is just have the key to start the fucking engine, okay? So I went in, I got in there, I breathed in the nice, I think it was brown leather. Oh my God, it was so nice. Brand new brown leather. I sat in that fucking car, got comfortable, pushed down on the gas and everything, and put the key in the car and click, click, click. It didn't start. Oh, fuck me, man. I was that fucking close. But it's probably good because I probably wouldn't be alive now, because I probably would have crashed that 944 on, doing 200 fucking miles an hour going up Highway 75, or got pulled over, got arrested, some shit like that. Or what would be worse is some asshole would steal it or key my motherfucking 944, and I would have been so pissed. But I told my dad about it, and he's like, yeah, thank fucking God you didn't win, because I wouldn't have paid for your fucking insurance. So I went back to driving my stupid old 1973 AMC Hornet copper colored station wagon that broke down like a month later. Okay. And then I got my mom's Plymouth 77 Plymouth Arrow, and that was actually a better car. But yeah, right there, I could have won a damn 944. And I always remember, every time I go by Tower Place, I always remember they had the car parked like right here. And I got in that fucking car, and click, click. Oh, fuck me, man. Fuck me. But anyway, enough of that. So that's Tower Place. Um, let's see, where do I want to go now? There's just a few more odds and ends here. Let me pull those up. But yeah, this is just good memories for me. But it's strange how close I was in 1985 and had no idea to all this shit that was going on around me. I just had not a clue. Okay. All right. So we got that. Also, in this um, tower place up on the 30, yeah, 2800. Anyway, so in the same building at the same time, there was this attorney named David Rock. And David Rock was a mob attorney since the 70s. Again, he's associated with the Gatons, with the limelight there. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell this other story. I don't know how, but I ran into this secretary, and she instantly had a liking for me. It wasn't in our office; it was like downstairs. I think I delivered some paperwork to her, or something like that. But she instantly got a liking to me, and every time, we'd leave about the same time, and she would just be kind of chasing me down, you know. And then one time, something happened, and she said she was sick, and that could I drive her home? Well, fuck, she lived down in Morrow, and I lived at Lindbergh. And she goes, no, 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 you can just drive my car. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. How am I going to get home? Oh, you can just drive my car back to your place and then, just drop it off at Tower Place and I'll get it the next day. How are you going to get to work the next day? But I tell you, the whole way home, she went from instantly being sick to instantly being touchy feely all up and down my leg all the way fucking home. And I mean, she was a sweet, nice girl, but God, I mean, I was like 19. She's probably like 26. And she was probably like 300 pounds. I'm not kidding. Really sweet, nice girl, but God almighty. And I already had a girlfriend. I already told her. She didn't care. It was crazy. Anyway, so a couple last ones here. So this one is Tony Thievis, okay, at Atlanta Classic Properties. Now, Tony was just a kid back in the 70s, like me, when all this shit was going on. I think he and I are probably about the same age. But when he got older, he got into real estate. And believe it or not, he actually um, went back and either purchased or handled the transaction sale for his dad's old mansion that he lived in at the time he went to jail in 1974. And I think he's still out there trying to rehabilitate it and sell it. And he had like an office, like right here, which is just right up the road from Buckhead. Yeah, so there's Tower Place. Now this is Chastain Park. Now Chastain Park, they have like an amphitheater there, but they also have like a golf course and a little park and stuff. And Thievis, when he broke out of prison, um, somehow he would get word to his wife to bring the kids to Chastain Park, and he knew that the FBI would be following, his son and his wife. So, and he told his wife, he got a message to his wife to put the kids like on a certain bench in a certain area, and then he would hide out in the woods here or in a car, and then that way he could see his kids. Okay, that was another reason he said he wanted to stay at Atlanta Federal Penitentiary. He wanted to be near his kids. Oh, isn't that sweet? He didn't want to be near his fucking kids. He wanted to be near his fucking business. Okay, that's all he gave a damn about. And let's see what else. Hold on one second. There's another one here, but um, he made the mistake one day. I think it was the federal prosecutor that had prosecuted him. Went there to the park with his children, And Thieves, when he got arrested, he was chatting with the federal prosecutor, and he told the federal prosecutor, says, "Yeah, I was at Chastain Park to see my kids, and then I see you." Down to the judge, and told the judge about that, and said, "Yeah, he's like putting out these veiled threats that he's going to come after me and my kids because he knows they're at Chastain Park and shit like that." But anyway, but Tiva says, "No, no, no, I wouldn't. That wasn't what was going on there." So, and then let's see, we got two more locations, and then we're done, I believe. Um, let's see, are we still recording? Yeah. All right. Actually, about five more locations. Now, there was this guy. I can find the location here. Okay. I want to say it was about right here. There's a school. It's either this school or it's somewhere around here. There was a guy that this kid was playing, and yeah, I think it was right there at the YMCA. And he came upon this green car, and the green car was still a green station wagon. It was, and he saw there was a tube going from the exhaust pipe into the window. Okay, and he saw there was a guy inside, and there was gas coming through the crack in the window. So he ran, called, got his dad. They called the police, and they showed up, and the guy had committed suicide. It was an old, a guy like in his 40s or something like that. So, but since it was a green station wagon and it was right up the street from Executive Parkway, and it was right after, I mean, like a week or so after, um, Patrick Baltazar was found murdered at Executive Parkway. They got the female witness, the dental technician. They brought her up to the site before they even took the body into the morgue. They brought her to the site to see the car and to see the guy. And she goes, "No, no, no, that's not the guy. He had longer curly hair. He was younger, and that's not the car. That car is kind of a goldish, greenish car. This is a green station wagon." But that was pretty strange. I saw a news clip on that, and at first they thought it was the same guy that the lady had seen with Patrick Baltazar, or near the body of Patrick Baltazar, but it wasn't the same guy. It was an older guy. All right, so let's take a look at this site here. And all right. All right. So this is the mansion of Michael Thieves. Okay. And I don't remember if he built it himself or just bought it. I can't remember how the story goes, but and I don't think we can go. Let's see. Can we see it? Yeah, there it is right there. Yeah, that's the mansions, okay? That is that's Stevens's mansion right there. Okay? It kind of looks like the Playboy Mansion almost. But that was where Thieves lived from like 1970 to 1974. And um, okay, I'm going to go over this a little later, but he had gotten his kids a horse, a pony, a black pony, okay? And the wife didn't like it. I think the city had some kind of ordinance against having a horse, a pony, on city property or whatever. And so he had to get rid of the pony. Okay. I'm going to come over this a little later, but I'm living out in Monroe, and we had gone horseback riding with him and his security guard and my mom. Just me, my mom, him, and his security guard. And I really liked riding the horse. I was probably 6 years old, 7 years old. And so one day, I'm living out there at Mrs. Jackson's farm in Monroe um, during the summer when I'm not going to school. Um, One day, this truck and trailer shows up, and they offloaded. Miss Jackson got me and her boys that came out there, and they offloaded this black pony. Now, I'm not saying it's the same exact black pony, but um, I'm pretty certain it was the same black pony because my dad said he got me the pony. But then I told my mom, I said, "Yeah, Mom, Dad got me this black pony." And she goes, "What? That fucking liar. No, he didn't get you a black pony. Uncle Mickey got you the black pony." So Uncle Mickey got the black pony for his kids. The city and his wife didn't want him to have it there. So then he gave it to me because it was out in the country, and they put it at Mrs. Jackson's. And I rode that black pony for probably 2 years out in the cornfields there of Monroe. And then when my mom got custody of us, I had to leave that black pony. And sometimes I would go see my dad and I would ride the black pony. But eventually, one time, about a year later, I came and the black pony was gone. Mrs. Jackson said that your dad had raffled the black pony off. And he had given my black pony away that Michael Thieves' Uncle Mickey had given us. So um, Thieves went to prison. His wife stayed there for a while. Eventually, I don't know if the IRS got this property or not. I assume they did. Um, but eventually, I think in the 90s, um, Whitney Houston, was it Whitney Houston? And her husband, was it Bobby Brown, lived in this house. That was their house they lived in. Um, I think one of many they had. And I think this is where Bobby Brown was beating Whitney Houston or something like that. And eventually they got divorced and sold the house. But I saw something later that Bobby Brown said that the house was haunted, that there was some kind of ghost in the house or some shit like that. But I thought that was interesting. Um, let's see. Oh, and then, okay, so the lions, okay. Now, this goes back to the Bible. King David is the lion. He's the lion king, okay? So in the ancient times, lions kind of represented royalty and power. And so if you could control the lion, you can control the power. So even going back to the Hittite Empire at the gates, there's these huge lion statues, okay? And then supposedly in Jerusalem, near the palace where the king lived, there was these huge lion statues. And if you go all over Jerusalem and all over Tel Aviv, you'll see these huge statues, about 4 feet tall. They're painted different colors of lion statues. Okay, so that is for what it's worth there. All right, so let's see just a few more places here, and we will be done. All right, so the rest goes to Jimmy Jen up in Alpharetta, and I'll handle that some other way. So now we're going to go over, down and over. All right, so that's Linux. This is Roxbury, okay? And so this is 85, okay? And This is Highway 85. This is that toll road, Georgia 400. This didn't exist back when I used to go to Lenox. Um, I think the railway, the red line goes to Perimeter Mall this way. Right, it runs down the center of the toll road. Um, but let me see here. Hold on 1 second. Now, when I was working at Tower Place, I rented a room right here, Bernadette Way. Is it Bernadette Way? God, it's been a long time, folks. I think it's right here, or maybe it was right there. Yeah, Bernadette Lane, right there. And I don't think this either this house doesn't exist or there's a lot of shrubs or something around it. I think it was this house because I remember it was before this road right here, and I don't know why. I rented the room from this old drunk lady. Okay, so she had like two bedrooms upstairs. She had the room downstairs, and there was like a kitchen, a dining room, and a living room. And in her room and drink all day and stuff like that. Some older lady. Her son came one time to visit. She didn't have a husband. I think they'd gotten divorced. And her son was really cool. He was about my age, maybe a little bit older, maybe a year or two older than me. And he grew up here, but he was living in New Mexico. And we would go around to visit all his little friends. I remember one time we went by Hooters, and he had like an old girlfriend there. We visited Hooters, and that was a lot of fun. Um, but yeah, he was a cool guy. I don't remember his name, but he was a really cool guy. But I love cutting the grass, and so I had this headset, the Sony Walkman, and I would get out there and you know on a Sunday in the middle of the day, it's like 900 fucking degrees, out there cutting the grass, and my mom got mad at me. She goes, "She ought to give you some money off the rent for cutting the grass." And I go, "No, Mom, you know how I love cutting the grass. 'Cause I used to cut the grass at our house. I used to love doing that, and it was a lot of fun." But yeah, I live right there, and used to go, and I worked up in Smyrna at on the weekends at the Toys R Us, and I tried to get a job at the one at North Lake. I thought would be a little closer, but then when they moved to Perimeter, I just stayed at the one in Smyrna. But right there now, right here, if you ever go to Atlanta, at least back in 2002 when I was there, this is kind of the red light district. There's strip clubs, massage parlors, adult bookstores, all this, and this is all the result, okay, of what happened during the 70s. Because when Thieves went to prison, all these adult bookstores from the different organized crime families, they all swooped in and tried to take over after Thieves left. They kind of took over the territory. And it was what happened is that, you know, Mary Welcome got hired because Stevens paid Maynard Jackson some money as a political donation. And he hired Mary Welcome, who had worked for Garland. She was brand new right out of law school and out of her internship with Garland. And she got appointed, not elected, but appointed as the um, Atlanta solicitor. And that was basically code enforcement, and that handled all the strip clubs. And so basically, they ran almost all of the strip clubs, the porn places out of Atlanta, okay, that weren't associated with the Gambinos or Michael Thieves. And so a lot of them, they relocated up here, okay, off this area here It's kind of an industrial area, and so they didn't really care too much. The city didn't really care too much about this area. They just wanted him off of Peachtree. So that's where they mostly located there. And let me see here. So, but before that, right here in February, end of January, beginning of February, Patrick Baltazar disappeared supposedly from the Omni. That's supposedly where he was going. Nobody confirmed seeing him there, but that's supposedly where he was going. Okay. I sure would like to talk to his little friend, supposedly that he was with, but he disappeared for about 3 weeks, end of January, beginning of February, end of January. Okay. And then, is it right here? Am I hitting the right? Am I at the right place? I'll have to take a look here. So he disappears for about 3 weeks. And then this dental technician at Executive Parkway, she's going to work one morning. She comes in early, about 7. And yeah, no, that's not it. No, it's a little further down. So, well, there's Roxbury. Ah, okay, here it is. Okay, I got it. So, this parking garage wasn't here. She worked in this building, and so she parked like out here. Okay, and she gets out of her car and she notices this green station wagon that was backed into the parking space. Now, most people didn't do that. Okay, most people just parked head on into the parking space. And here was this guy parked, the back end of the station wagon was here, the front end was here, and there was this guy that's sitting right there, a white guy with long curly hair and a mustache, and I think he had on a flannel shirt because it's winter. And okay, she's over here. She's parking her car. And as she's getting out, people, that's what people do. They look around, they see what's around them. And she sees this guy and he sees her and he's looking at her like really, really angry, like and intense. And it scared her so much that she ran inside. Okay. And so then later that afternoon, there's a maintenance man. See how much time we got here. He comes, down here with his little trash can. He's picking up the trash as he's walking along. And this bridge and this pathway did not exist. Okay. And then he gets to about right here and he looks down, and I wish we could go over there, but we can't. Kind of rolled down the embankment in the grass was the body of a young black male. He calls the police. The police show up. The news media hear about it on their scanners. They show up with the helicopters flying around. And I'm pretty certain that it's this one right here because I remember this tree. Okay, although that looks like a little younger tree there. But I'm pretty certain it was around here. And so the police come, they find this body of Patrick Baltazar 3 weeks after he disappeared. Fresh body, no deterioration. There's no way he had been there 3 weeks. There's no way he had been dead for 3 weeks. He had just been killed like the night before. Okay? So what does that tell you? Where was Patrick Baltazar for 3 weeks? Somebody had him tied up someplace. Somebody was feeding Patrick Baltazar. Somebody was giving him water. Somebody was escorting him to the bathroom while he used the bathroom. Because, folks, you can go maybe a month without food and not have problems. But you go more than a week without water, you got some serious problems. Now, they can do tests on the body and the flesh, and especially with the fingernails, because the fingernails stop growing when you don't get enough protein in your body from food, okay? And they can also tell how dehydrated the body was. And he wasn't dehydrated, and he had been eating. He had food in his digestive tract. His stomach would have been completely empty. There was food in his stomach, folks. So somebody kept him someplace tied up and was feeding him and giving him water, letting him go to the bathroom also for 3 weeks. Where was he? So this woman, she got a description. She hears all the commotion going on. She comes out, sees the police, and then she remembers that morning she had saw this guy in the green car, the green station wagon with the long curly hair. Okay? So she told them. And that's why they took her up to Windsor when they found that dead guy in the green car. Now, all I know is that if you look at Executive Parkway right here and you drive down to the main road and then go to the highway, so say you're getting off, you would exit here, turn left, come up to here, and turn right into here, and then boom. Or turn right here and left there, and boom, you're right there. Now, another interesting thing, you see this creek right here? This is a feeder creek for the Peachtree Creek. Okay? If you follow this creek up, right, I think it's right, is it right here? Hold on one second. I may have to shop around to find this, folks. Hold on one second. I think it's right. Let's see, where is that building? Come on, Blue. Uh, it's not coming up for some reason. Let's try it again. Anyway, there we go. Why isn't this coming up? Huh. No, I'm sorry. So you see this creek, it comes up and goes through here. And then right, is it right here? I have this written down, but I'm just doing it by memory here. Okay. Century Boulevard. So in 1981, okay, the office of the FBI, the field office, not the one downtown, because you're not going to take a body and drop it downtown or on the steps of the FBI, okay? But right there it is, right there. You see that building right there, off of Century Boulevard, and right behind that building, right there, that was the field office for the FBI. That would have been in the phone books, folks. And if you look, you see that building right there? That's it right there. And if you look, that creek is right there. You follow that creek down. You see? There's the creek. And you are right there. Actually, no. Actually, did I mess up? Hold on one second. Yeah, you follow. Yeah, see. Okay, so there's the. Damn it. There's the FBI building. You follow the creek right here. You see, right there. So what I think, in addition to be one of the few bodies found in DeKalb County, because the city of Atlanta is literally like right here, like this border right here. So, not dropping it in the city of Atlanta. See, Wayne Williams is trying to confuse. Now they got this task force, but he's also trying to confound um, the city departments. So you kidnap someone from Atlanta and you drop them off in DeKalb County. You kidnap someone from off Memorial in DeKalb County and you drop the body off in the woods in South Fulton. This cross, what do you call it? Cross contamination of jurisdictions makes it harder for them to solve the crime because you got one guy, one group is solving, trying to figure out, get more information about where he was last seen, and other one's trying to solve the crime scene. Okay, that's what I think is going on. I also think because right around this same time, okay, at the end of January, beginning of February, the beginning of February is when the FBI officially gets involved in the case. Now, they've been helping out before, but now all the cases are assigned to, I think it's like two members, two FBI agents per case, per victim, okay? And I think it's this, what I think what's going on, with my whole point, what I'm trying to get to, is that Patrick Baltazar, I believe, was Wayne Williams' calling card for the FBI. He's letting them know, welcome to the game. Welcome, FBI. Now I've hit the big time. I got the big boys here. And I'm going to leave you a little present, a little something, something to take a look at. And that was Patrick Baltazar. And his body was found right there, right near the creek, right down from the FBI. Now, he could have gone, you know, he could have gone up here and dropped the body, you know, right there close to the FBI. But that's an entire glass building. 24 hours a day, there's cops in there. They could have saw him. So, and then also, Wayne didn't drop the body, okay? He gave the body to James Comento, okay? And James Comento was the person that the dental technician saw. He had just rolled the body out of the back of the station wagon. You know, I can imagine they just killed Patrick Baltazar. What do you want to do with him, Wayne? I want you, because it's getting hot now and people have seen me, I want you to go drop the body off. I've killed him. You deposit the body. Okay? Well, I'm not going to go dump him in the river. Fine, go dump him wherever you want. Okay? But I would suggest somewhere over near close to the FBI because now the FBI is involved. Okay? And the reason I say James Comento is because the green station wagon, the description matched James Comento, what he looked like at that time, because I met James Comento. He was doing an first aid course back in the winter of 1981. My dad took his course right up the road here in Doraville, and we met James Comento, and he looked just like that. And I've seen pictures of him from that time, and that's exactly like the description. It's exactly like I remember him. And also, one of the most important things, okay, and we're almost done here, is that James Comento, coming from Wayne's house, would go up Highway 85, get off here, dump the body, and then go back over to Roxbury, okay, and then go right back over to here where he lived, which was off of Torrey View Drive. Now, I don't have the exact address. I've got it written down, but it's literally a 5-minute drive. He goes up Roxborough Road, goes down to Torrey View, and then boom, he's at home. Oh yeah, by the way, also James Comento lived with his parents. He still lives with his parents. His parents are like 100. I think his dad's like 100 now. The house where James Comento lives is still in his father's name. Okay, and then James Comento, um, sometime I can't remember exactly when, but according to Paul Michael Douglas or whatever the hell that guy's name is, who worked with James Comento, um, James Comento got arrested for having child pornography in his car. This is what I'm saying, the connection between the Atlanta child murders and child pornography. Why you keep running into all these hints, but there's nothing solid. So this is what I think is going on. That Wayne, and I'll kind of end it here, okay? We got 4 minutes. What's going on is Wayne finds out about the child pornography opportunity, I guess you could say, from Jimmy Jen, who's running the child pornography for Michael Thieves, who's in prison at the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary. Because Wayne's not having any good luck with getting this Gemini group going, but he's got all these kids coming in, okay? Many of the kids have been doing the same thing. They've already been working child pornography with Will Coxon. They're already doing sexual favors with other older men over at Tom Terrell's house. So it's not that much of a jump, okay? Wayne's already homosexual. He's already having sex with kids, okay? He's already together with James Comento. So Wayne, I believe, is the hub. He's running it, okay? And whether he's taking orders from Jimmy Jen or Michael Thieves or Garland, I'm not so sure. But he's definitely doing something. He's either getting the kids, recruiting the kids, getting the kids, bringing them. He's either bringing them to Jimmy Jen and at 881 Memorial and they're recording them, or he's taking them to his house and doing the filming and the video and the pictures there and then bringing it later to Jimmy Jen. It's one of those scenarios, okay? He's got James Comento involved. He's using James Comento's car, green station wagon everywhere, okay? His dad's using the white station wagon. When his dad's busy with the white station wagon, Wayne's using James Comento's green station wagon. You see this green station pop up everywhere, okay? Down at Southview, you know, Luby Getter's getting into a green station wagon, all this stuff, okay? So that's what I think is going on. Now, whether he's killing them because he's being ordered to by Jimmy Jen or Michael Thieves, or, get these kids quiet, they're talking too much, or he's just doing it on his own because he hears on the street that they're either going to tell, don't want to be involved anymore, or they want that reward money. One of those things. And then in the end, when there's no more kids left, because all the other kids are scared or he can't get a hold of the rest, he's killing off the adults, okay, that could help compromise his situation, like Nathaniel Cater and Jimmy Ray Payne. That's what I think is going on. There's very, very little solid evidence on that, okay, because you think about it, relationships like that are going to be verbal, and there's not going to be any document saying, yeah, we got together, I got together, Wayne Williams, and got together with James Comento and Jimmy Jen, and we all decided to start killing these kids because they were talking too much, and we shut their mouths to keep from getting caught and going to jail for this child pornography ring that we were working with. You're not going to have any documents that are going to say anything like that. Okay? All right, so that's enough for now. And now I'm going to get into the actual murders, and we're going to scan across those, and then I'll come back to those in a later time and get into much, much, much more detail. All right, take care. Bye-bye.